Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. We have a special bullpen today. My big homie Tizzy, my brother from another mother. Before I go to Tizzy, let me remind you of the kind of stories him and I both cover. Here it is.
Hey, Vancouver, British Columbia, it's your turn.
Need to see that public. The kids don't need to see that public. Don't like it, get the out of Canada.
And the fun thing about Canada is they're pretty good about bringing hate crime charges, which this absolutely qualifies as. So Vancouver, who is he? So you have a double amputee who's normally in a wheelchair, moving around on the remainder of his legs, wielding a knife, and you want to disarm him so that he doesn't hurt you, himself, or others. So what can you do? You tried taser didn't work. Fair. Pepper spray? I mean, if he can't see, it'd be hard to throw a knife at you. But let's say they didn't have pepper spray. Okay, how about step back? How about create distance? It seems time after time we see members of law enforcement go, that meets the bare minimum standard of what makes it okay for me to pull my gun and discharge it. And so they do, instead of always trying to find any other solution. So I showed you that video of a Douglasville, Georgia man threatening the life of a black FedEx driver while hurling racial slurs at him. Then I showed you how that driver now has an attorney and they went and filed a formal incident report with the Sheriff's Department, and now the Sheriff's Department just needs to act on it. Well, the Sheriff's Department decided they're not going to cite that man. If you want this handled in the court of public opinion, we can go that route, but I'd rather he faces the legal consequences that he absolutely should. He called him racial slurs and told him, I'll show you how little black lives matter. That is a hate crime. So since the Sheriff's Department wants to operate under good old boy standards, perhaps the Douglas County District Attorney would like to take up the reins and do something about it.
My dear brother. All right, so what people may not know is that Tizzy and I actually work on stories together sometimes, just behind the scenes, all right? Okay, brother.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. Video content creator, editor, director. Let me ask you this question first, because I think some people would be fascinated to know what led you to do this kind of much needed social justice work.
I would say I found it by accident. I joined TikTok originally just to create silly content, just as a creative outlet, kind of always on any kind of thing like that, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be. It kind of goes hand in hand with what I do for a living in the film and television industry. Maybe I'm exporting something or rendering something. To me, it was a way to keep the creative juices flowing. I'll just make a silly video, I'll post it, and I'll be done. And very quickly on that app, I noticed misinformation spreading rapidly. You'd have someone says something that's clearly not true, easily disprovable. And then you have 12 million views, several 100,000 likes, and a few 100,000 people going, I never knew this changes everything. And I was sitting there going like, well, that's not true at all. So it kind of started as that, me sort of responding to just misinformation. And that could be political, that could be, when COVID first happened, when we were in lockdown and we saw conspiracy theories like QAnon explode. And then obviously the vaccine and people. So it's kind of, things definitely kind of come to the forefront over time. And I just sort of, in that frustration of trying to go like, hey, maybe we should apply some rational, logical thought to things, then you start seeing stories like this and stuff like this. People even bring stuff to me and go like, hey, can we talk about this? Why did this happen? Why does it seem like this keeps happening? And I have those same questions, and it made me realize a lot of people have those questions. So I just started talking about it, and for whatever reason, people listened and engaged.
Michael, I want to know your process, dear brother, because naturally, we're just one person. I'm one person, you're one person. We can help somebody, but we're not able to help everybody, but everybody can help somebody. And if everybody would engage, then everybody would get help. So there has to be a process. I know I get a lot of emails every day. And we are very thoughtful about going through those emails, following up, having people provide information so that we can properly vet the story. And here's why we have to do that. There are people who try to get us to do stories that are not true in order to discredit the platform. So we have to be really, really careful when we vet the information up front. What kind of process have you been able to engage in? Because I know people hit you up just as well.
Sure. I mean, I think it's constantly evolving. A lot of it over time, and you can probably relate. You do kind of build sort of a gut, if you will, to like something here. Those red flags pop up pretty easily, where you can see stuff. Sometimes there's stuff that I think is probably true. I believe the person telling me the thing, but there's not enough for me to be able to go and make a video and say this thing happened or this was like this. So yeah, it takes a lot of kind of discernment, I'd say is maybe a good way of putting it, to just sort of like, you go through those facts, you double check things, you ask for links, you asked for the screenshots or the recordings or the stuff that backs up the claims that are being made. And so, you kind of have to just sort of vet it, and then it's a mix of that and sort of, using your own better intuition and deciding accordingly. But it can be tough.
Let me ask you about some of the responses you get. I'm going to read one that I received just this morning. Now I get death threats all the time, and so this person named Reed says, "So as to make no mistake as to who I am loyal to, I am from a long line of the White Knife Clan." All right, so he sends me this in an email. This is what we call a veiled threat. I get them all the time. I'm sure people come at you as well. They don't like the fact that you are exposing corruption.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I did a video that just was talking about the differences between Black pride and white pride, for example. It came out a few years back. A lot of white supremacists, they put me on the radar and they really didn't like that. I got to a point where I started responding to people and asking if they could, if you do a Google search for images of nooses, if you could please scroll down like 30, 40, or 50, because those first like 20 or 30, I've already seen all of them. You all have sent them to me already. Because I got tons of messages that were like, you can hang alongside. And stuff of that nature. And yeah, I'll get those things, if I'll get those things when I do a post, and maybe I duet someone or I share someone else's post, then they're like, oh, these people messaged me to tell me, don't associate with him because XYZ, or if you're with him, then you can get it too. So sometimes it even spills over in that way. Yeah, it is unnerving to say the least.
Yeah, tell me about your connection to the stories. I'm really not a professional broadcaster. I'm a guy that professionally broadcasts. I'm Rashad Richey from Glenwood Road. That's who I am. And that's how I approach stories, and that's how I connect to stories. So some stories obviously have significant emotional impact on me. How do you get through that process as you are not only vetting the story, but working the story so that you can make a presentation, a thoughtful presentation to the public without getting so caught up that you cannot deliver the story properly?
Sure. I mean, yeah, because a lot of these things do impact me on an emotional level.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of why we do this kind of stuff, right? As my following, if you can call it that, grew, you get to a point where you start feeling an obligation. You start feeling like, if all these people are going to be listening, and then there's people that need help or things that need attention, I feel a responsibility to bring that. So I'd say that's probably the main driving factor. That's the thing that kind of keeps me going. Because this can be, I don't think I have to tell you, this can be taxing on your mental health.
Yeah.
This can be taxing on your physical health. You get burned out, you get wore down, and you just have to kind of keep finding those things that keep you going. In my case, I find it's usually when we actually, I say we because I can't do this stuff alone. It's the people that follow and engage and share. That's the reason that anything gets accomplished. And when we're able to help someone, when we're able to, find out who someone is, or there is a need and a GoFundMe or whatever the case may be, and we're able to overwhelm that person with blessings and kindness. Or sometimes it's just, I'll post something and just people that follow me and see my post will inundate that person with positivity.
Yep.
That's what keeps me going, and that's kind of.
I got to say this, brother. You change the tides of things routinely. I mean, it has become very normative for you and your everyday lifestyle. But I want to pause on this to help people really appreciate what you do for everyday individuals. People who cannot find justice in their local community, people who cannot find justice through outlets of media, traditional media primarily, they will find justice through you. You get the story, you're thoughtful about listening, you put together a presentation to the public, and it makes sense. And the public responds, and what happens? A few things. Number one, the person who has been wronged all of a sudden feel as if it's going to be okay because there's support they can feel. Second, your commentary has created change. Police departments have changed their minds because of you. Policies have changed because of you. And outcomes have changed because of you. That has to be a significant catalyst for the work that you and your people continue to do.
No, absolutely. It's the whole thing. I mean, I just had something I posted today, and the young lady involved literally made the statement that she didn't feel safe to try and press charges against someone until she got inundated with messages after my video posted from people showing her support, from people validating that she has a right and a reason to feel the way that she does. And how that made her feel safe, that gave her confidence, and how she did communicate with police, and she did stand up for herself and say something needs to be done, and now charges have been brought in that situation. That kind of thing is everything as far as I'm concerned.
I got to say this for everyone watching. My dear brother actually reached out to me a while ago, and it was based on a story. And from there, we decided to start coordinating together on some things. And typically, we're not going to let the public know what we're coordinating on. All right, we want to be effective, okay? But his heart, his spirit, was so authentic in reaching out. I got to get this brother on the show, and I want to highlight your continued work. For those who may not follow you presently, please make sure you follow this brother. I really appreciate all you do, Michael.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate that, I'm not the only one, that people like yourself and others are doing it as well.
All right, for those who are watching, dear brother, tell them how they can follow you and check out your great work.
Sure, TizzyEnt, TizzyEnt, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can find me on all those platforms. I post multiple times a day. Much to my own chagrin. So yeah, you can find me there and keep up with me there. And I appreciate all the eyeballs that can help forward a story.
There you go. Thank you, Tizzy. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.